Hello, you're listening to 590 The Man, and specifically to the MJ Show. My name is Miles Jefferson. My mama calls me MJ. My friends call me Coach. And you can call me at 314-969-0590. That's 969-0590. Here at 590 The Man, where it's 24/7 topics that you want to talk about. You know, the phone lines are empty right now, so go ahead and call. But before we get started, I want to talk to you all about what caught my mind in today's world. You know, I'm a well-rounded individual. Well, I guess that's why I'm on a diet. I'm too well-rounded. But I'm a well-rounded individual, and what I believe is everybody should know a little bit about everything. And I like to be informed. Do you like to be informed? I mean, you don't want to be that one guy that doesn't know what's going on in the world. And to me, to be well-rounded, you gotta have varied interests. It makes life great, and sometimes it makes life shocking. You know, it's not a one world that we live in. You know, we live in a country that's diverse. We live on a planet that's diverse, and I think too often we forget about that. We forget about how things change and things advance, but in other parts of the world, maybe not so much. Specifically today, I saw a thing that says, the headline was, Russia to enforce anti-gay laws during the Olympics in 2014. Well, first off, I didn't even realize the Olympics was in Russia in 2014, but it looks like it's going to be in a town called Sochi, if I'm pronouncing that right. I hope that I am. But Sochi is on the border of Russia and Georgia, and the Russians are really taking a stance. It's surprising most of the free world. They're taking a stance that they're going to enforce some rules, and these aren't ancient rules. These aren't rules that go back to the 1800s, or these aren't rules that are based in fundamental Christianity. These are rules that are fairly new. In fact, they're enforcing rules that were just signed into law in June of 2013. And the law specifically that they plan to enforce is that if anyone is an activist in support of gays, whether that be a protest or a rally or a march, passing out propaganda, specifically to minors in fact, you will be arrested. It will be a fine of 100,000 rubles. Now, I heard 100,000 rubles. I was a little nervous. And not that I planned to be in Russia in 2014, but 100,000 seems like a lot. In American dollars, that's 3,000 American dollars. In addition, you could serve 15 days in jail, and then you will be deported from Russia, never allowed to return. I don't know about you, but I'm not really concerned about returning to Russia, but hey, that is the punishment. Now, the International Olympic Committee, somewhat shocked about Russia's stance. They will enforce that rule because they had been assured that similar type laws would not have any impact on the Olympics. And what the Russians are saying is, we plan to have no impact on the Olympic athletes so long as they follow the rules. So how do you feel about that? Is this something we need to take a stance on? Do we need to boycott the Olympics? Is it that important of a deal? And I want you to reflect back on our America. You know, when I thought about this, I got to thinking about my own lifetime. And I go back 30 years ago. 30 years, because it was roughly 30 years ago that we learned that Rock Hudson was dying of AIDS and that he was a homosexual. And I remember America openly mocked and made fun of the man. A man that had been an icon to American men for decades was suddenly the laughingstock, the butt of jokes on television and at the water fountain around the country. His career was at an end, as was his life, and his reputation was destroyed just 30 years ago. America's changed a lot in the last 30 years. I remember sitting in a college classroom on a state university and hearing a PhD say, boys, tonight we're going to have to rally against this new group we got forming here on campus. It can't be permitted to exist. And that was in the fall of 1985. So, should we look down upon Russia? Maybe they're just 30 years behind us like we were back then. Or Are they right? What's your thoughts? What's your opinion? Lines are open at 314-969-0590. Should the Russians be allowed to enforce the rules that their country has put in place, or do they need to bow to the will of the people? You know, I talked about change in this country, but let's talk a little bit deeper. Let's look at the American Red Cross, a great organization, saved thousands, if not millions of lives. But what did they do in the early 80s when they first learned about HIV? HIV was initially thought to exist only within the population of homosexuals. And as a result, the Red Cross did not pursue every avenue to protect the people that gave and received blood transfusions. And as a result, many of those folks died by no fault of their own. Their lives were forfeited because the Red Cross chose not to protect a segment of the population. Now, once it was discovered that HIV could extend beyond the world of homosexuals, the Red Cross stepped up to the plate. But not before many people saw their lives come to an end. And did you know, if you look it up today, most of those lawsuits have yet to be settled. They keep pushing and pushing and pushing. And it's no longer the people that were infected with tainted blood, but the survivors of those folks that are pushing those lawsuits because the Red Cross chose not to take action. Yes, folks, the United States of America in the year 2013 is not the same country it was in 1983 or 84 or 85. We evolve. And the question is, should Russia evolve? Should they catch up overnight? Or do they have the right to enforce their rules? 969-0590 at 590 the man. I took the family out to dinner last night. Went to a nice little Italian restaurant. We had a great bite to eat. You know, I love chicken flamingo. If that gives away where I'm at, I'm sorry, but it's my favorite meal on the planet. Chicken flamingo, white cavatelli. Oh, I love it. All you can eat salad and bread for as far as the eye can see. And bring me the real butter, by the way. Sweet tea, and I'm good to go. And how did I pay? Well, I pulled out a card, and I paid with a card, like most of us pay. And when I looked in my wallet, I realized I didn't have any money. Do you carry money? Nah, I don't carry any money. It's rare for me to ever have money. My money goes right in the bank. I use a debit card to pay for everything. I think I write 1 or 2 checks a month. It's rare, if ever, that I have cash. It's an inconvenience when the kids have a ball game, a sporting event, and they don't take a debit card, and we have to stop and get cash because the kids are going to want something from the concession stand because I want to pay with a debit card. That's why I love these new Square things. If you saw those things, they plug into your cell phone. They're absolutely wonderful. You plug them in, you swipe them, you're good to go. But why am I concerned about debit cards? Well, I'm concerned about debit cards because I saw an interesting story. Did you guys see this? I saw a news story that said, of all the debit card PIN numbers, and do you know how many PIN numbers are possible? We all have 4-digit PIN numbers. There are 10,000 possible numbers. It's a neat little mathematical formula. Have you seen that? You take the number possible times the number possible to get the answer. So in other words, on the first number, which can be 1 through 0, and the second number can be 1 through 0, and the third number can be 1 through 0, and the fourth number can be 1 through 0. So you've got 10 times 10 times 10 times 10, and of course that comes out to be 10,000. That's how many combinations are possible on a debit or a credit card PIN number. And yet, 30% of all PIN numbers chosen by Americans fall within 22 combinations. Now, is that shocking? That of all the 10,000 codes, we'll end up picking 22 that make up 30% of all the PIN numbers picked. And we wonder why we can't win the lottery. Well, hell, we're all picking the same thing. 22 combinations. So what's the most popular? Well, you know what it is, right? Everybody knows what it is. So look around. What is it? Most common PIN number? 1, 2, 3, 4. 11% of the people. Oh, I'm going to fool the world. 1, 2, 3, 4. Nobody will ever guess that. So what do you think number 2 is? What's number 2? That's right. 1, 1, 1, 1. Oh, my Lord, we are an imaginative people. 1, 1, 1, 1. Now, number 3, what could that be? I don't know. Could it be 0, 0, 0, 0? Unbelievable, folks. You wonder, we shouldn't arrest these people that steal from you. We should arrest you for being slow. So, 22 combinations make up 30% of the chosen numbers. Now, here's some, number 22, and really we'd only look at the top 20. But number 22 was so neat, I thought we had to talk about it. Because I'll bet you there's somebody in our audience right now that's got number 22 that's thinking, nobody will ever guess mine. My combination is 2, 5, 8, 0. Now, those numbers seem random, right? A 2, a 5, an 8, a 0. You're all over the scale. It's nothing that matches up. So why is that the 22nd most picked number? Because it goes right down the middle of your phone. A 2, a 5, an 8, and a 0. That's right, folks. 30% of all PIN numbers can be guessed by the bad guys simply because people don't think that they can ever be robbed. Let's go over those numbers. Popular numbers for pins are 1, 2, 1, 2. Raise your hand when we get yours. 7, 7, 7, 7. 2,000. 4, 4, 4, 4. 22, 22. 69, 69. Where are the perverts at? Raise your hand if you're a pervert. If your PIN number is 69, 69. Would you like to grab a bite to eat after the show? 69, 69. 3, 3, 3, 3. 5, 5, 5, 5. How about this one, folks? 66, 66. Those people probably scare me just a little. But you see the common theme. They're simple numbers that are easy guess. So what are the safest numbers? Well, the safest number is a lot like 2580. It's numbers that involve both big and small numbers that are placed in a random order. Those are the ones that you're not going to guess. My PIN number falls into that category. Now, I'm not going to tell you what it is, not on the radio, but my PIN number is a number that goes back years and years. I know people that do things like they pick their address from their first apartment, or maybe they pick an old phone number, or they pick the last 4 of their social, or they do some number they're never going to forget. And that's what we should all do. Because if you're being stolen from because you pick one of the 20 most popular numbers, maybe you deserve to be stolen from. What do you think about that? What's your PIN number? 314-969-0590. I'm MJ, and you're listening to 590 The Man. My favorite sport of all time is baseball, and thus the name coach. Now, I have coached every sport you can imagine. I've been a football coach, a baseball coach. I've coached soccer. I even coached a chess team at one time or another. I've done everything. I've coached it all. Basketball, football, baseball, wrestling. I've done all the big sports. What's that? Gymnastics? No, that's not a sport. No, I haven't coached that. But baseball, football, wrestling, I've done all the man sports, okay? I'm a manly man, and that's why you're listening to AM 590, The Man. But I've coached all these big sports. And baseball, of course, is my favorite. I used to be a head college baseball coach. I know a little bit about the game. Some people would argue very little. But I know a little bit about the game, and I'm fascinated with what we've seen in the last 15 years. And specifically, I'm talking about drugs. And, of course, you can't talk about drugs these days without talking about A-Rod and the New York Yankees. A-Rod, we know he's a cheater. Got caught up in the steroid scandal. And here we are again. His name is in the news. It's pretty much a given fact that he's been involved with a big scandal out of Florida, and he's been taking inappropriate drugs to enhance his performance, and he's about to be suspended. And I sit there, and I'm torn with this. I'm a baseball guy from long way back, and I don't know everything about baseball, but I know this. I know that if you could sit down with Babe Ruth and Lou Gehrig, if you'd sit down with them and you showed them a pill, and you say, you see this magic pill? Or you see this syringe? If you'll take this, it's going to make your home run go 50 feet farther. If you take this, your hits are going to go through the infield twice as fast. I think the breeze from their pants dropping to take that shot would almost knock you over. I think that it's not cheating. I think it's enhancing. And I think that why wouldn't you do it? No, everybody, the phones are lighting up. 9690590, that got the phones going. But before we go to the phone lines, let me explain why. Now, how many, you don't have to raise your hand. I can see it through your radio, but you don't have to raise your hand. But you know deep inside, how many of you guys are taking little purple pills? How many men out there are on Viagra? So, and I bring this up for a point. Now, people are saying, Viagra, how does that... When, for some reason, we must have a country audience. You ever notice that? When I start channeling the audience, the voice goes country. I don't know why. I guess it's the country people out there. It must be the people in South County. That's what it is. But here we go. Here's the whole situation. People are using Viagra to enhance their performance. Right? Now, some people may really, truly need that. And that's great that it exists for people that truly need it. Just like some people truly need steroids to help their bodies. But then you got people that are taking it just to get a little better. Now, that's say me and you aren't taking Viagra, and we're out here trying to compete in the market. Is that fair to us? No, I'm going 15 seconds. You're going 15 hours? Come on now. How fair is that? It's not fair at all. But you don't see me calling the police. Hey, excuse me. Jimmy Bob over there, he's taking this little pill, and he's wearing people out. That's just not fair. No, it's part of the game, folks. It's part of the game, and you choose how you want to play it. So if they want to shoot up, pop up, build up, I don't care. I just want to watch the home runs leave the field. Do you understand me? And I think that Babe Ruth, Lou Gehrig, I think if you could go back and talk to them all and get them to tell you the truth, they do what they could do to be better. What do you think? 314-969-0590 at 590 the man. Oh, what do you do on the weekends for fun? Well, for my family, we have 5 kids. So when we're looking for things to do that are fun and stuff, we look for things that we can do that are neat, the kids enjoy, the kids can have a good time with. But at the same time, we're looking for stuff that just doesn't break the bank, to be quite honest with you. I mean, there are some things that are just expensive. And one of the things I really like to do is we really like to run over here in Illinois, and not every week and not every month even, but we'll take the kids over and we'll take in an evening of horse racing. It's pretty neat. We can eat along the way somewhere, and we get there. And we're city folk. What can I say? I grew up on a farm. I grew up around all these animals. I'm going to tell you a story about that in a second. But my kids are city kids. They barely know which end you feed and which end you clean up after when it comes to an animal. And for them to get to go out, and they don't necessarily get to touch them, but to them to be able to walk down to the track and be within, if not inches, within feet of these magnificent animals. For kids, that's just a wonderful, wonderful thing. And they get to, pick the ones, they pick their favorite numbers, or they pick their favorite colors, and they get to, see, who's going to pick the winners, and sometimes, we'll place a bet for them to let them have some excitement. Oh, okay. Yeah, he's over there calling DFS because we're letting the kids gamble. But hey, it's all in fun, But I grew up as a kid raising horses. My job in high school was every day I had to clean out 40 stalls, 40 horses every day I had to take care of. And I didn't so much enjoy it as a kid. I couldn't wait to get away from it. And now I pray that someday I'll be able to get back to it. But I grew up taking care of horses. And for me, I have an unfair advantage when I go to the track because I can usually pick the winner. And I go over there, and I'm not a big gambler. I don't have a lot of money to waste, but I like to have a good time. And I'll go over, and usually if we watch 10 races, I can usually pick a trifecta 3 to 5 times out of 10 races. I can usually pick 3 to 5 winners, in a trifecta type situation, based on watching the horses walk, looking at their record, reading their paperwork. I'm pretty good, and I mean that's just kind of part of it. You grow up around it, you learn it. Now I've had nights when I go over there and I've not won anything. But I've had nights when I come out of there and I've done pretty good. And I play small bets, small bets. My biggest take out of there, bought my children bicycles. They all got new bicycles. And what happened was we went to the racetrack and they had some kind of a special event where if you could pick the correct order and the horses that would finish 1, 2, 3, and 4, you could win this mega prize. And I sat there and I looked at it and I said, well, wow, this is pretty simple. It's going to go 1, 2, 3... and on this 4th horse, man, it's going to be this one or this one. I spent like 10 minutes debating. I finally picked my horse. Wife wouldn't let us stay. Oh, we got to go. You're not going to win that. So we go home. I get home. I pull it up on the internet. And wham. Big winner chicken dinner, buddy. And that's how it was for me. It's just that beautiful thing. But what brings this up is a headline in the St. Louis Post-Dispatch today that says a jockey from the local racetrack was suspended for suspicion of fixing a race. Now, I don't know about you guys, but that didn't surprise me a whole lot. I've seen it before. It happens. Anytime human beings are involved in competition, cheating can possibly exist. And in this particular case, it seemed like it was, done for a little nod of the head out of respect. You had a jockey over there. Everybody calls him Cowboy. His name is R.A. Jones. And R.A. Jones, believe it or not, is 70. That's 70 years old. 70 years old. And R.A., 70-year-old Cowboy, still riding the jockeys, had an opportunity to do something that no person had ever done. No jockey had ever won a race in 7 different decades. And this was going to be his opportunity. Now, I don't want to confuse you folks out there that are mathematically challenged. How can he be 70 and live in 7 different decades? It's pretty easy. If you're born in, say, 1969, you've lived in the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, the aughts, and now the teens. If you were born in 1969, you're not yet 50 years old, and you have already lived in 6 decades. Okay? So it's pretty simple to be 70 and to have lived in 7 different decades. But he was in that race. He was riding a horse called Magnificent Mindy. And God, haven't we all ridden a Magnificent Mindy one time or another? But anyway, R.A. Jones was riding Mindy, and the charges come down to a jockey by the name of John Laguni. I'm not for sure if that's pronounced on his spelling or not, but Laguni was riding a horse. Laguni was riding Magnificent Mindy. I misspoke there. I apologize. Jones was riding My Kentucky Breeze. But Laguni riding Magnificent Mindy didn't appear to be trying hard out to win the race. Matter of fact, the last 70 yards down the stretch, there at the end, where it's all go, all in, here we go, never went to the whip. So he chose not to whip his horse down the finish. He'd been in first most of the race. He did not appear to be trying to close out. And ultimately, Mr. Jones, Cowboy, if you will, did not win the race. He came in second because another jockey by the name of Yuri Lopez was able to recover from a gaffe on the last turn. He went wide. You could argue maybe that, he was trying to throw the race too. It's kind of really hard to say. But Mr. Breeze didn't win. But when they review the tape, and I didn't know this. Did you guys know this? Apparently, racing officials review the tape of all the races to make sure they don't spot anything that looks suspicious. And reviewing the tape, they were noticing that he didn't go to the whip. And that they tried, it looked like they tried to get this older gentleman a chance to set that record, which of course is a problem because, that's right, folks like you and me are gambling on horse races and we're being cheated. Because if we can't gamble, and that brings me to my story. I believe it was 2006. I was at the racetrack, and it was a situation where it was supposed to be a field of 8 or 9 horses, maybe 10. And they had some injuries, they had some scratches, and all of a sudden they're down to 6 horses in this race. 6 horses left in the race, and one of them was like a 1-to-1 odds, 1-to-2 odds, 1-to-3 odds on the first 3 horses. And then on the bottom 3 horses, it was like 1-to-30, 1-to-40, 1-to-50. So it was clear that you had 3 horses that were going to run away with this race, and 3 that were going to compete for last place. And it was a race that happened to offer a trifecta. So it was pretty simple that hey, pick these 3 horses and you're going to win. So myself and a lot of other people at the racetrack that night, we ran to the window, we placed a big bet on those 3 horses, and off to the races they go. And one of those horses that was supposed to win or be in the top 3 pulled up about halfway through the race and loped the rest of the way around the track. Just loped the rest of the way around the track. And clearly, to me, that was suspicious. And I lost my money. And I'm wondering, well, why didn't the Racing Commission, why didn't they look back on that? What was the issue? That should have drawn red flags. I don't know. Maybe they didn't look back on races in 2006. Maybe that's something recent. Do we have anybody in the audience out there that knows anything about racehorses and racetracks? I grew up in a show horse environment. I'm not really a racetrack guy. We did race, but more of my experience is in showing showing horses. I apologize, and I'd like to know. 314-969-0590. Hey, this show only works if you call in. If not, I get to talk a lot, and believe me, I enjoy talking a lot. But I like talking to the audience. 969-0590 at 590 the man. So, what do you do when you're bored? You know what I do? I play on the computer. Don't you? I mean, I'm on Facebook, I'm on Craigslist. I get in so much trouble with the wife buying junk off Craigslist. Stuff I just gotta have. Oh, look at that. I've never seen one of those before. I gotta have that. Like for example, I have what's my name? My name is Coach. And what do? I coach things, and I own my own chalker. Yeah, that's right. I have a professional chalking system. Now, why do I have that? I don't really know why I have that, but I do. I can chalk my own field, and that's because I bought it off Craigslist, and I've used it twice. Yeah, I've owned it 3 or 4 years now because, they chalk your fields for you. It's great for practice, and I own my own chalk too, but something I bought off Craigslist. It's just what I do. Or do you ever get bored and you Google stuff? Yeah, that's something I do a lot. I'll be watching the news, listening to the radio, and I'll hear about something, and I'll go, ooh, I'm going to have to Google that. See, I almost believe that these days, people don't need to go to college. People need to learn how to Google. That should be part of high school. Because I had someone tell me that an undergraduate degree was designed simply to teach you how to look stuff up. Yeah, they really felt that a master's degree was to learn how to actually do stuff, and then an undergraduate degree was all about showing and proving that if you didn't know how to do something, you could figure out how to go learn how to do it. And that pretty much describes Google, right? You can go on Google or YouTube, and between the two of those things, you can figure out how to do anything in the world. Our washer and dryer, our washing machine broke down, I guess it's been about 2-3 weeks ago. And I Googled it. I Googled what was wrong. And it said, boom, go to this link. And I go to the link, and there is a repairman standing in front of a camera on YouTube. And he says, if your washing machine is doing X, Y, and Z, and mine was, and it's this model, and mine was, this is what you do to fix it. You pop this off, you take out these 2 screws, you slide this forward. See this wire right here? This is broke. Pull this off, cut this wire, splice it together, put some black electrical tape on it, and it's fixed. Well, it's not technically fixed, but you bypass the safety circuit, and now it will work. And you know what? It did. It did. I was able to watch YouTube for 3 minutes, pull my washing machine apart, fix a problem, and save myself a couple $100 from the repairman. It's amazing what you can do. But at the same time, you got to be careful what you're looking at, because you can get yourself in trouble. And that brings me to a news story today. I can't remember where this is from, but there's a young lady. Her name is Michelle Catalano. Michelle, it must be Italian, right? So Michelle is trying to cook, and she's wanting to learn new things. And one of the things she was interested in was buying a new pressure cooker. So she gets on Google, just like we would all do, and she started Googling about pressure cookers. And she was learning a lot. And she went off about her day. And her husband comes along on the same network, and he's an avid outdoorsman, and he decides, you know what, I think I'd like to go camping, but I need a backpack. And he started Googling backpacks. You know, I mean, common thing, right? I mean, if you've been a student in college, at some time or another you have a backpack. If your kids are in the Cub Scouts, at some point in time, everybody's had a backpack, right? Well, what do those two things go together? Well, let's think back to the Boston bombing. And what kind of bombs do they use? They use pressure cooker bombs. All right? And how did they distribute those? In backpacks. So Wednesday of last week, knock on the front door. Michelle goes to the door. There are 6 men in black suits representing a terrorism task force, in which they began to question these folks on why they were investigating pressure cookers and backpacks, wanting to know if they had created a bomb. You know, we really don't know how we're being watched. I remember, and I'm sure many of you do, a long time ago in high school, having to read a book, 1984. And it was pretty significant for me because I was in high school in 1984, and it was kind of interesting to see how the author had hit some things right on and missed some things. But really, in the 29 years since 1984, there have really been significant steps forward in how we're monitored and how we're watched. Have you thought about that? Think about when you leave your home in the morning to go to work, how many cameras you pass along the way. Whether it be a street camera, red light ticket camera, or whether it be a camera from the bank or a local surveillance camera from a store or a business or even a neighbor's home. A lot of neighbors right now are putting cameras up so they can see who's at the front door. We live in a very safe neighborhood, very safe. And we had a criminal come to the door one time to one of our neighbors' homes with a gun. It can happen anywhere. It's people. We're a mobile society, and you're not safe regardless of where you live. Bad things happen to good people all the time. So people have put up cameras. So when you leave your house in the morning to the time you go to work, if you have any kind of commute at all, how many cameras do you pass? And we don't really think about that. But cameras are coming more and more a way with the future of how police officers and police departments are going to solve crimes, because they can take the time to obtain the videotape, and they can track a person throughout the day. Well, here's his car. He left the subdivision and drove by the QT. Caught him on the camera there. He went past the bank on down the street. There he goes. Turned the corner. Red light ticket camera there. We saw him where he turned. And they can track you throughout your day. Well, we're visible in so many ways, whether it be by camera, whether it be on the internet. For example, have you noticed that when you Google something, you suddenly start getting ads that pop up on your screen? Or maybe not pop up on the screen, but the ads that come with websites that start to match up with things that you Google. Initially, most people probably don't even think about it. They just think that the ads happen to match up. But that's because they're monitoring what you look at. So look at something funky, and you'll start getting interesting things. Have young kids, you start Googling about the best diapers, you'll start getting young kid stuff. If you're looking at a new car, you'll start getting car stuff, sports things. It's amazing how they can monitor our IP and see what's going on out there. So what are your experiences with that? Do you like it? Do you hate it? Do you think it's a safety thing? Are you willing to give up some of your personal freedom for protection? How do you feel? Hey, the number is 314-969-0590. and you're listening to 590 The Man. My name is MJ, Miles Jefferson. My mama calls me MJ. My friends call me Coach, and you can call me at 314-969-0590.